All right, so I've gone ahead and imported all of our noise reduced files into Cubase. We've got all 9 BGs, we've got all 4 lead vocals, and I can tell just by looking at this that we're going to need to do some extra work as far as arrangements. Now, the first thing that I want to do is I want to be able to see all this stuff. So I want to go to our zoom waveform meter right there, and we're going to raise that a little bit. And I'm going to take all my leads and go ahead and put them in Vox 1. Everything else can go into Vox 2. Now, without coloring them, they're going to take on the color of whatever folder they're in. This might be a little bit dark, so what you can do is you can highlight these and just for now, color them whatever you want so that you can see the waveform a little bit better. So I'm going to do that with these guys. And I'm just hitting Option Shift and then going up here to select color and then just selecting my color. Now, if I have something selected on my timeline, it's not going to color the tracks. It's going to color the region. So if I was to do Option Shift click, it's going to color these waveforms, but not the tracks. So in order to color the tracks, undo that. I'm just going to click out of that. And so now they're all that color. Fantastic. And having something bright while I'm editing is super helpful because it allows me to really see what's going on here. So if we look at this, all of our leads are pretty much there. We've got one open space here, but we've got a lot of background stuff that is kind of random. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to set up tracks for those individual parts. We've got some ad-libs, we've got some breaths, we got some oohs and ahs, that sort of thing, and we got some call and response. So we need to spend some time taking this apart and putting it back together in a way that makes sense in a mix setting. Let's go ahead and listen to the bridge together because we are going to take that apart, but then I'll do everything else kind of behind the scenes and then cut to when all this is finished.
I believe, I believe. I believe, I believe, I believe, I believe.
Cool. So all these call and response things are going to need their own track so that nothing is really sitting on top of each other. So we're going to do, let's see, I like to do things in pairs. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do 4 I believe tracks. And we're going to route all these to Vox so that we don't have to do any kind of routing prep. We're going to call this call, response, and we're going to do 4 of these. Cool. So we're going to go ahead and just start chopping. And it doesn't have to be perfectly accurate right now. But we're going to start moving some of these. I'm going to hit Command when I move them. And what that does is it forces them to stay where they're at on the timeline. Now, again, I'm going to need to color these tracks. Let's go ahead and do that. Same with these guys. And since they're far away from each other, we don't need to worry about them overlapping. But these guys here, they're going to overlap. So we are going to make sure that they are on a separate track so that we're not stepping on toes. Okay, so let's do a little bit more editing here. There's that. There we go. Cool, this is looking pretty good. We're going to do some more micro editing for all this stuff in a little bit, but right now this is pretty good. So all this stuff here, we're actually going to create some tracks for those as well. It looks like we have 7 of those. So we're going to say add track. And we're going to call this a gang. Let's add those tracks. And I was supposed to do 7 of those. So let's go ahead and do 7 of those. Call them gang. And do 7 of them. And it's going to number them automatically, which is really, really cool. Now, if I go up to my folder and I make a cut, it's going to cut everything in that folder. Super useful. So I'm going to go ahead and click and drag these. Beautiful. Let's color these. Control Z is beautiful. Cool. So that's our bridge. Separated into, let's see here, 9 different tracks. And this is going to help us with some more editing and mixing stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and hit pause on recording this video, and I'm going to do some more of this kind of stuff, and then we'll pick it up here in a little bit. All right, so about 15, 20 minutes later, and I've got everything kind of in the right place with tracks that make sense, so that when I look at it, I go, oh, so this is the that part, and this is the other part. And so something else that I'm doing here is I'm clearing out, as you can see, a lot more space. So I cut out any additional space in the track where there was nothing really useful. I decided that RX6 only did so good a job of getting rid of some of the noise. The biggest reason I did the noise reduction was so that when the vocals were playing, it didn't have any noise during them. However, in the space in between, there was still some noise, and I decided to go ahead and chop that. Now, with that, we have a couple of stops and starts that we need to take care of. So if we listen to the vocals here,
I must be,
if you can listen really carefully, you can hear it kind of start right away.
I must,
So we need to go through all of our regions, and we need to do a super quick fade. So if we highlight everything and then zoom in super close, we can just do a quick fade, and notice how it's applying that fade to everything. We just need, a couple milliseconds so that it fades in and out naturally. We don't have any clicks, no pops, and everything looks pretty good.
I must be so close.
And that sounds pretty good to me. I tend to be pretty religious about having even sets of vocals, unless there is like a lead and then a double on either side, or just a lead. 1 is fine, 3 is fine, but if I'm doing like gangs, I'm going to try and have an even number. So for things like this BG verse, I'm probably going to get rid of one of these tracks. So let's go ahead and listen to this to make sure we're not really missing anything here.
I believe, I believe,
And I think I still have the leads soloed.
I believe, I believe, I believe.
Yeah. So since we have some harmonies at the back, what we're going to do is we're actually just going to get rid of all these guys.
I believe, I believe, I believe.
And again, that's just helping with symmetry. I love having symmetrical mixes when it comes to big vocal parts. You can leave in as many tracks or whatever as you want, but that just helps me out during the mix process. Okay, cool. So we've got a really rough edit here. So next, we're going to get into time alignment. So check out the next video for that.